everyone, really excited to be here today with Horace Luke, co-founder and CEO of Gogoro. Horace, lovely to meet you. Wondering if you could give us a brief intro to your backstory as an entrepreneur and kind of how it led into the origins of Gogoro.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca, for having us on. We started the company about 10 years ago with the idea that we need to offer something that was a little better for people to, and easier for people to adopt electric mobility in the hearts of cities. I started, my early career in Nike, where I was a creative director looking at kind of telling stories in different brands. And then one day, a friend of mine told me that, the internet was going to change everything. That was in the mid-90s, and I ended up joining Microsoft, where I became the creative director of Xbox, one of the first 7 guys on the team to really try to bring technology to the living room and try to offer entertainment as well as connectivity to everyday living. And then later on went on to help Windows with Windows XP and bringing Windows technology to, I would say, everyday productivity. And as I looked at technology and how technology applied to everyday living, I made a big move to HTC back in 2006 to become one of the early founders, so to speak, on smartphones, creating the world's first 6 Android phones, and really focus on usability and how do you actually take really great technology, really great connectivity, and then apply it in a very usable and approachable way that the consumer can then now adopt such innovation. And then I would say 10 years ago, it dawned on me that the productivity era has come to a peak. And I would say, overall, over the last 3 decades has really been about the computing revolution. But moving forward in the next several decades, I think it's really going to be about the sustainability and mobility revolution. And as you think about, all the topics and all the conversation on the heels of COP26, there has never been a stronger need for more sustainable urban solution for all the big cities that are emerging across the world. What people don't realize is over 50% of urban mobility that is done, urban commute miles that is done on a daily basis, is done on 2-wheelers. On the other half of the hemisphere, where millions of people are living on top of each other and moving into cities, where urban pollution and roadside pollution is peaking like crazy, and we need to offer something that's a little bit better for everybody to adopt, so that we can have a more sustainable future. So instead of your traditional plug-in charging or tether plug-in charging, which would take hours to refuel, in a city like the one I'm in today, in Taipei, or in Indonesia, in Jakarta, or in India, or in China, finding just a spot to park is impossible. You can't really imagine trying to convert these gasoline vehicles to electric, because there's just nowhere to park. And so being able to offer a swap and go battery swapping solution that is that you can go from really a depleted battery to a full battery in just seconds, really was been a game changer in the pilot market in Taipei in Taiwan that we launched several years ago. So today we're really excited, of the progress we've made so far.
Yeah, game changer is right. I mean, I think was it last month, some numbers came out that showed that there's some serious market dominance going on for Gogoro in Taiwan. I think it was that you had over 63,000 electric scooter registrations in the country in the first 11 months of 2021. The next closest competitor is Aeon with just over 7,000 registrations. So what do you attribute to this massive popularity?
Well, what's interesting is that the Aeon electric vehicle actually uses the Gogoro platform. We offer an open platform that now has Yamaha, Aeon, Suzuki Taiwan, PGO, e-moving, in addition to our own branded vehicle that you see in the background here, to really use a common set of batteries and a common set of stations to let the consumer swap and go. And before Gogoro started, launching back in 2015, electric transportation or electric two-wheeler was really very, very few and far between. It made up less than 1% of the overall market. So think of it as out of 100 two-wheelers that are sold, that are gasoline powered, you get one electric before Gogoro started. And today, we're now account for over 95% of the overall electric market, while the electric market grew to now over 13-14%. So in Taipei last month, we just closed up December. In Taipei alone, we're over 25% market share, along with our partners. And that has, 1 out of 4 vehicle is now electric in just several years. In comparison, if you think about what Tesla dominance in the US is, Tesla has been able to achieve about 3 to 4% market share. So out of every 100 vehicles that are sold, 3 to 4 is Tesla. Today, 1 out of 4 in Taipei is now a Gogoro or Gogoro powered vehicle. And so if you think about an Aeon vehicle you just mentioned, it is now using the Gogoro battery as well to swap. And that has the usability and the ease of convenience of getting refueled into 100% in just seconds has really let the consumer adopt electric mobility without all the anxiety and all the frustration, right? So you buy the vehicle without the battery, and then just like you do with a mobile plan, you subscribe to a service that lets you access in Taiwan over 10,000 cabinets that we have now installed across Taiwan. We're now managing over 1 million batteries on the network that allow the consumer to swap and go at any location. So there's no range anxiety. You get on a vehicle and you go as far as you want, and you just pay as much as you use. And so if you use a lot, then you pay, of course, proportionally more. And if you use very little and you just park on the side, you don't really need to think about buying a battery or maintaining the battery. When the battery is depleted, you just stop by one of our stations and swap. And that usability was a really changed everything in Taiwan. And we're now partnering with our partners, not only in Taiwan, but also across in India with Hero MotoCorp, the largest two-wheeler maker in the world, as well as Yadi and Dachangjiang in China to deploy vehicle into different cities across those regions.
Yeah, so the usability aspect, I think, is really what kicks it off and makes it a super easy thing to adopt, right? So yeah. Gogoro has different verticals, as I'm aware. There's you have the direct consumer sales, you've got the battery swapping network, which other vehicle manufacturers are also a part of, and then you've also got the sharing network, the shared scooter network. Now, can you walk me through a little bit of the business decisions included in those? Like, why add on when you did?
Well, my thesis is very simple, right? There's a period of time in which, the world is going to pay attention to a certain topic. And then technology comes along and enable that to happen in a big way. And so timing is everything. And as we started, we, as you mentioned, we have a lot of verticals. When we started, we just thought about the battery network as a enabler for electric mobility to happen while other people build the vehicle. You can say fortunately or unfortunately, nobody built the technology that we needed. So one thing after another, we end up building our own motor. We end up designing our own tires with our partners so that we can actually get more efficiency out of them. We end up designing and manufacturing all our batteries, our swapping cabinets, the entire server that runs the network on the backside. You can say that we're a little bit crazy in that we see a problem and then we face it, and then if there's no solution out there, we think that that's a great opportunity for us to add value. So we just continue to build on that. And as we think about mobility, right? As you said, we offer the network to all partners to use in an open way. So all they have to do is really focus on using our. In some cases, they use our own motor. They use our motor. In some other cases, they use their own motor. But they all plug in our battery, so that the consumer gets the value add of being able to go to all the cabinets and swap. And then through that, we discovered that some people want a fractional ownership. They don't want to have They don't have to necessarily want to own the vehicle outright. They just, once a week, twice a week, they get on a vehicle and they want to go somewhere and not worry about it. They drop it off and they can take a bus or take a subway back home if they needed to. So not having to worry about the burden of the vehicle. That triggered our thought of, enabling GoShare. And GoShare is, as you said, is a mobility as a service platform for us. And most recently saw in the news that we launched with Gojek in Jakarta. That's also powered by GoShare. In the GoShare model, the consumer would just simply walk up to a vehicle or look on an app and search for a vehicle, turn it on, ride it, park it legally, and then check out and walk away. Now, what's unique about Gogoro is that we're able to reduce our OpEx in comparison to other mobility as a service provider because we enable the consumer to swap the battery. It's kind of like a hotel room that cleans itself. So there's really little downtime, right? Instead of most mobility as a service provider who has to have a fleet of operator that goes out and swap batteries or plug the vehicle into charge, we have a very minimal set of folks. 7 out of 10 of the battery refueling is done by our consumer, and in addition, our consumer also has then no range anxiety at all. They can check it out for an entire day. They want to use it as far as they want. They don't need to worry about switching out the vehicle. They just check out the vehicle for the entire day and swap and go also as well. So the swap and go platform enable us beyond just the ownership model of refueling, but also enable new businesses to come alive through adding value from just the battery swapping and letting the business to run and operate in a more efficient way. And then most recently, through our battery swapping, we also enable other businesses, such as you probably saw the smart parking meter that we announced that enables city to turn into smart city. And one of the hardest part about enabling cities to have connectivity everywhere is running the power line. In our case, we're deploying several thousand poles this year in Taiwan that allows the battery to be swapped out. So instead of powering through from the ground, we just have to send a guy out every 20 days or so to swap out a battery, and enabling a city like the size of Taipei to now have connected parking meters that not only can charge people for parking, but also have other sensors to monitor the city and turning streets into smarter streets. And that has really been the power of these portable batteries and swappable batteries that not only applies to mobility, but also apply to smart city and cleaner energy as we see cities getting more connected.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of companies or other business opportunities have sprouted from this just ability to battery swap, right? So is there, what's next? What's the next enabler, or what's the next move for Gogoro?
Well, there are a lot of, think of us as like the AA battery, except much bigger, right? Think of us as, everything in your house that you have today is powered by batteries. Anything that's, the fact that we're talking today is, the fact that your laptop has a battery in it. We believe that cleaner, portable, swappable power can enable a wealth of other things that can happen. So, for example, we just deployed recently in Taiwan about 20 poles, light poles that enable us to deploy on street lights 5G stations. And those little stations, street lights is one of those things that are kind of very primitive. During the morning it turns off, and then comes the evening, turns on, and the entire street loses power. So all the sensors on the poles will then lose power. And what we can do is that we can use our battery to also power that throughout the day, and then charge those batteries at the nighttime. There are many things we're doing to enable these batteries to not only provide mobility for the consumer, the end consumer, but also working with cities and working with governments to really make cities cleaner and smarter and more connected. And there are just so many things that we're working on. if you think about just swappable, portable power, and if that's the thesis, that's what Gogoro is. And that can sprout many different opportunities coming up, especially when the batteries that we have, we look at it as really first life, second life, third life before it goes to recycling. Part of sustainability is the responsibility of using resources for as long as you can. Once you extract those resources from the earth, you should use it in as many cycles as you can. And in our case, our batteries can go in the mobility cycle for over a decade. And then after that decade, then the batteries then needs a second life, somewhere where it's maybe the power demand is not so high, like the power, parking meter, where the power needs is trickle, but then still the swappable battery is important for us. So thinking through that problem creates a lot of opportunities for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Some really long range thinking there. Now, you said that you want to essentially be, or that you essentially are, a battery swapping company, and that's kind of how we should think about Gogoro. Now, does that mean that you may not always be a vehicle maker as well?
Well, actually, to be honest with you, when we go into, we just deployed in China. We deployed in Hangzhou, Wuxi, and Kunming. We just deployed into a third city. We're a little ahead of schedule in deploying, getting ready for a big launch in the spring. And in China, the market is gigantic. There's about 250 million vehicles that is getting ready to retire over the next 3 to 5 years that needs to really get on more sustainable, safer, battery swapping, vehicles. And in China, we don't build one single vehicle. We work with China's largest electric two-wheel maker, Yadi, and China's largest gasoline two-wheel maker, Dachangjiang Haojie, to create their vehicle. So they design, they put together their vehicle, they manufacture, they distribute, and they sell their vehicle across their channel, but uses and works with Gogoro and license our technology to deploy the battery swapping into those cities that we're going into. And think of us really as the Android of EV. We are not so stuck on having to build our own vehicle. We build our vehicle to demonstrate what we can do when we apply innovation and design and usability to a vehicle to inspire industry to move toward that direction. So that started with the Gogoro One when we launched in 2015 back in CES, when nobody was doing mobility in CES, and now everybody's talking about mobility at CES. And to then the Gogoro 2, which has made a big splash in Taiwan market, and now is also in Jakarta, and as well in a couple of cities in Europe and in Korea. And as we think about what Gogoro's value add is in vehicle making is really about the fact that we can do everything end to end, and that end to end enable us to create a conversation and a solution that then sparks the consumer's imagination and adoption. And then they can say, what brand do I want to choose this battery swapping usability from? So in the case in Taiwan, they can choose from Gogoro's vehicle, or they can choose from Yamaha's vehicle, or Aeon's vehicle, or Suzuki Taiwan's vehicle. They all offer different style of design. They offer different type of services. They offer different type of form factor. But at the end of the day, they have one common denominator, which is using the de facto standard, the Gogoro de facto standard of battery swapping in Taiwan. And over the last 6-7 years, we really kind of honed our technology. And 2022 is going to be a big year for us to think about how we're going to actually deploy overseas. So, for example, in India, we're working with Hero MotoCorp, and with Dr. Nanjal, he's designing the Hero vehicle. He's going to manufacture the vehicle, but he's going to use the Gogoro technology, the connectivity, the battery swapping to really kind of help his company do the transformation between his gasoline offering today into the needs of tomorrow, which is electric conversion, and all using the Gogoro battery swapping.
What would you say the benefits are to working with local vehicle manufacturers in India and in China, rather than just kind of trying to, build them all in Taiwan yourselves and ship them over?
Well, simply put, to be honest with you, if you think about where, you know, where China is today with Datang and Yadi, they have over 50,000 retail outlets. 50,000. It's really, to be honest with you, I can't go fast enough.
Mhm.
If I were to go and build my own vehicle and have to deploy into that network on my own, without those partners, I would not be able to go and think about, half a dozen cities in half a year, right? And just keep going and keep deploying. In Like I said, in China, between Yadi and Dachangjiang, they have over 50,000 retail outlets in over 300 cities. That's a
Mm.
massive platform for us to take our technology and apply to their brand and their channel, and then trying to achieve what others would think is close to impossible, right? To get those riders, half a billion rider or quarter billion riders onto the Gogoro battery swapping network. That
Mm.
is why we work with these partners. They have really great local connection with large businesses and government in the cities that they operate in the country they operate in, as well as they just simply have had a brand that people can trust, and with a sales network that is broad. And what we think of us as really an enabler that enabled it to transition into smarter, more usable electric vehicle. And so it's a win-win for both sides. They get to take advantage of our technology. They get to have a new conversation with the consumer, and beyond on the trend of what the world needs to get to carbon neutrality, as well as Gogoro gets what we need, which is, instead of building out a, a supply chain that is gigantic, all the way up to retail and service network that is gigantic, we simply leverage their power and their platform to deploy quicker, and
Mm.
that's how we have formed the strategy. Really think of us as the EV of the Android of EV, the Microsoft of the PC industry, personal
Mm.
computing industry.
Yeah, yeah. So just to pivot really quickly, now you had talked a little bit about smart parking meters and what that means for infrastructure. So I'm just kind of curious, how have you seen battery swapping affect the infrastructure of a city?
Oh, it's been great. I mean, in Taiwan, we launched our network. Not only, think about where gas stations are today. Gas stations are not in the heart of the city. They're not in a shopping mall. There's a reason for that, because safety, because of the off gas, because the real estate that it takes to service those customers. Instead, what we do is that we place our cabinets in supermarket, underneath, in universities, at the bus stop, at the subway station, at the coffee shop, at the 7-Eleven convenience stores, making our network much more, I would say, much more easier for the consumer to access, much more
Mhm.
convenient and ad hoc. And that has really changed the way that people actually move around in cities. Instead of everybody crowding over to a gas station and then dispersing, people are just refueling on the way. We see that as a huge change, just from an end consumer perspective. We also just recently announced with Taipower, Taiwan's largest electric, or the only electric grid supplier, on two topics that we've been passionate about for the last, I would say, 10 years. We've been working on this. The first is to take all the energy that we have in these cabinets and provide a bi-directional microgrid solution for the city. So we announced a pilot program where the cabinet you see behind me, it was designed to be, in the get-go, to be bi-directionally ready. So as it charges the battery, and if we don't foresee anybody coming over to swap out the battery, and if the city needs power, we can then push the power back into the grid and helping balance the grid a little bit. The second thing we do is that with these stations, they're all connected back to the server. So the electric company can actually, think of it as a virtual power plant. They ask us to, they put a broadcast out and say, for the next 15 minutes, I need people to stop using power. Whoever can stop using power, we'll compensate you for the reduction as well, helping to balance the grid at 60 hertz. And So what we do is we work with the Taiwan power company to basically shut down a machine and stop them from charging on demand like that. And then through that, we're able to work also with our AI engine to do prediction as to when people are going to come over and swap batteries and maximize the use of these batteries. And one of the most interesting things people ask me is like, how fast do these batteries charge when you put it in? How fast? It really depends, because what we do is that we use the machine learning engine that we have to monitor how our consumers are using the network and only charge and prepare batteries just in time for that consumer. So when you come over to a battery station, you put a depleted battery, we give you 2 full ones instantly. So within seconds, you get to go, and leave that station. You left behind 2 batteries or 1 battery that is depleted. But we will monitor as to when we predict the next person to come and charge responsibly in partnership with the grid to know when is the right time to charge, how fast to charge these batteries, to condition the battery, to extend the life of these batteries. So there's a lot more sophistication behind the battery swapping than just, oh, I'm swapping it out like a propane tank for barbecue, right? So we do it in a way that allows us to take our resource and apply it to other other needs of the cities as well.
Do you have this functionality across the Gogoro network? Gogoro,
sorry. On both of them are still a pilot that I just talked about in Taipower. Working with a power company, we got to be very, very careful, right? As we think about how we're going to actually be part of the virtual power plant solution across cities of tomorrow. We work with companies like NLX, the world's largest VPP company, to plug our solution into their solution, so that now we can I think across the network today we have about 20 locations that are live with this technology, and then later on, as we prove the success of it, we'll roll out to other cabinets. And all our cabinets in the latest generation of stations that we deploy over the last several years has been designed to be bi-directional ready. So they just need to really add a piece of hardware and they can go. And our system on the back end looks at the usability of the network, looks at when people use the energy, and then we can then commit to a certain level of energy that can be that can be either put back to the grid or can hold on charge, so that we don't take the energy from the grid.
Now, earlier you said that this kind of ease of swapping is what has enabled the adoption of more microelectric vehicles. I'm sure you're aware of a company called Ample, which is trying to do something similar with electric cars. Do you think that this technology can transfer well over to larger electric vehicles?
I think the reason why we're able to do what we do so quickly is because the footprint of the real estate it takes to do the battery swapping is actually very, very small. The cabinet is about the size of a Coca-Cola machine, right? We're able to put it in front of a convenience store. We put it in front of, at a bus stop, right next to the parking lot. We don't need a huge piece of real estate. But as you think about four-wheelers, I of course, I'm working on two-wheelers and three-wheelers for a reason, because I believe that is the biggest impact that we can have at the quickest speed that we can have. Part of innovation is, and invention is the ability for us to get as many adopters, onto the network as possible. And through, just looking at our station in the back here, one cabinet alone can service several hundred customers. So people come in, swap a battery, and on average, about 3.5 days later, they come and swap another battery. And during that time, that cabinet is servicing other people. And every one of those slots that are in the cabinet are turning over the batteries and charging batteries. Mm-hmm. A real estate, efficiency like that, like where, one single parking spot can service over 1,000 customers, is impossible for four-wheelers. And so that's one of the fundamental reasons that we're able to do, the real estate, and the ease of finding that real estate is really important. The second thing that you have to think about is, just the investment it takes. If you talk about four-wheelers, the robots, the machines, the 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 time it takes to really swap out a battery is not really optimal. In our case, the consumer just picks up a consumer just picks up a battery. It's 10 kilograms. It's easy. It's just like a jug of water. You pick it up, you put it in. There's no robots. Robots are your 10 fingers. So it's the cost efficiency of deploying such a network. If you think about other four wheel cabin four wheel swappers versus where we are, we can probably deploy dozens, if not even several dozen cabinets and locations for the price of one. And that ability for us to deploy across so many cities, such a big footprint at a cost efficiency is really important for us for the speed. And then overall, I think that the usability experience is just easy. You don't have to worry about things being clunky and robots taking its time to do a thing.
In September, in September, you announced, sorry guys,
You're drinking water, I'll drink coffee. I'm 7 in the morning here.
Fancy coffee. Now, last September, you announced that you'd be going public via SPAC by merging with Poema Global. This is a deal that set your enterprise valuation at $2.35 billion at the time. And this was expected to close in the first quarter of 2022. So can you give us an update on the status of that deal?
Yeah, we're doing really great. We got the first feedback from the SEC already. We're preparing all the Q&As back. We are overall, I think, the process has been smooth. People have been super excited. We were looking at, with a SPAC, obviously there's always a pipe that goes with a merger. On the pipe, we were raising $175 million, and we're really excited to let everybody know that we were way oversubscribed. We landed at about 257 million instead, so close to 80 million oversubscribed. So for us, we've seen a lot of market interest and a lot of people buzzing about what Gogoro is. There was, I would say, there was a post that announcement. There has been lots of activity on our side as well. We're very excited during the time of announcement that we also had Gojek and GoTo, which is another company of Gojek, the largest ride-hailing and logistics company in Indonesia, to join our pipe, and as well as now we deployed a pilot program into Jakarta. So working with Gojek to really turn their 2 million riders to one day use electric, and hopefully a great amount of that will use the battery swapping as a mean of refueling. And so hitting those number one, size market, China, number 2 size market, India, number 3 size market, Indonesia, has, I would say, really shown not only the people that are supporting us, our investors and our employees, that we're heading in the right direction, but also has, invited a lot of other cities and a lot of other business partners to approach us and say, what about our city? What about our country? What about our region? We need solutions just like yours also as well. So, having those large partners and having those large programs being rolled out, we're seeing the momentum accelerating, which is essential for us to get to, not only, from a business perspective, get to success, but also at the same time, the need to get to 50%, carbon neutrality by 2030, a must do for us to not put this earth at risk. We need to get there quicker, and close to 20% of pollution that we see going into the hemispheres through mobility, and a lot of that happens in big cities, and these big cities where roadside pollution is damaging people's health, as well as pollution they're emitting into the atmosphere is contributing greatly to damaging our planet. So, doing good, doing well. And then also at the same time, if you look at our vehicle and you look at the people using our vehicle, you can see they're having fun too. So do good, do well, and have fun doing it. And that's what we're, the Gogoro thesis there.
A mantra to live by. I want to touch briefly on that momentum in a second, but just to confirm, you did say that you're planning on on closing this deal this quarter, right? That's
Yeah, we're
on
looking. Yeah, we're still on track to probably close. Toward the end of Q1.
Mhm.
We are. We're everything's lining up, but of course the SEC schedule and the normal process will run its path.
Mhm.
But we don't see much barrier to that at the moment. We're seeing a lot of excitement in the market as well.
So when you go public, you'll obviously get a lot of money coming into the company. Do you have any plans for that additional funding yet?
Yeah, absolutely. We continue to look into, think of what we did in Taiwan is we put out our development center and our technology development center in the heart of our pilot market, so that we get to learn real time from how people are using it, and then develop the technology and deploy it. So we'll continue to make huge investment in R&D and creating differentiating technology, so that we can help not only ourselves but also our partners accelerate the growth of adoption in their market as well. So that's really the first use of fund. Second
Mhm.
use of fund is really to go into these markets and light it up. So like I said, we're getting ready for a big launch in China in the spring, when the weather gets warmer, where two-wheeler sales will start to climb. So we're really going to have to put a lot of market development effort into those markets to kind of work hand in hand with our partners to enable that to happen.
Mhm.
As well as India is going to be a market that we're going after in the later part of 22. And so with New Delhi as being a focus at the moment,
Mhm.
that will also need capital, as well as Indonesia and other markets. Uh, as far as capability goes, we announced a deal with Foxconn, to the world's largest electronic manufacturer, to work hand in hand with us to expand into the markets and create capacity there. So the formula is working. We have a
Mhm.
great demand side from the market and overall trend of urban mobility that is converting to electric. I think that's a really important piece of it, as well as the platform side, having great partners that we're working with, and working on developing those markets together, and then on the supply side, working with Foxconn, and then on the technology side, really working within internally, and also seeking partnerships outside to further develop the technology, so that we can actually have, I would say, when I started battery swapping back in 2015, nobody was doing it. And as a matter of fact, everybody thought I was crazy. Everybody thought that it was impossible. And I think 6 years on, 7 years on, it's starting to prove that everybody needs that, especially around two-wheelers and three-wheelers. And
Mhm.
we're now just at the cusp of the transformation decade for electric mobility.
Mhm.
And in 2022, 2021, 22, you see this hockey stick starting to happen. And that's
Mhm.
what we're getting ready for.
Yeah.
Gogoro has been doing this for 10 years. We were the first to do it, and we have the right partnerships, and we have the right markets we're going into, and by going public, we'll be able to get the resources, as well as have the governance and the transparency that's needed for us to work with these governments and large enterprises across the world to deploy.
Mm. And so you're expanding into a lot of markets in Asia. What about Europe? What about the US? Do you see, any time? I mean, the US is kind of still in love with cars. Maybe Europe would be a bit better suited for Gogoro's style of um, battery swapping. But do you have any plans in the works, or any ways that you can see adoption happening in either of those continents?
I would say there's a lot of conversation to take what we already have done so far into other markets as well. In Europe, we're over the last several years, we do have a partner in Europe. The partner is Tier, which does mobility as a service. So Gogoro's battery, as well as Gogoro's vehicle, is now in Germany, and And it was in other markets as well before the pandemic, such as Paris and Spain. Uh,
Mhm.
but since then it's consolidated into Germany. And I would say electric mobility is definitely a topic that everybody that you can imagine is talking about.
Mhm.
And battery swapping has been considered as the key enabler for such adoption. And so there's a lot of conversation happening in those regions that you just mentioned. We just have to be wise about how we use our resources and the partners we choose to go into those markets. Because, honestly, we get one shot at it. This decade, by 2030, if we don't do a good job, at least on our part of mobility, I think it's going to be a big miss. And so Gogoro is very careful about how we enter into the market. And as you can see, over the last several years, we have really honed our technology and really focused on developing the market in Taiwan, because Taiwan is, per capita, has a lot of people using two-wheelers for a population of 24 million people.
Mhm.
14 million vehicles on the ground. So, you don't count the old and don't count the young. Everybody has one, right? But unfortunately, they're all gasoline powered.
Yeah.
So proving our case that we can take a market like Taiwan and transform it into electric is essential for us to use it as a great case study, so that we can then convince other markets and other government and other policymakers that it is possible, that we should do it, and the benefits are such. And we're just at this point where we're now, I would say, through the inflection point now. Our technology is ready, our platform is ready, our people is ready, our partner is ready. So you'll see a lot of activity in 2022.
Mm. Okay, final question for you. What other promising micro EV trends are you seeing in Asia?
We've seen, of course, I would say, battery swapping for us is, form factor agnostic. So most recently, you saw us launching with two partners, two three-wheelers. There's, of course, other form factors across different parts of Asia, such as the tuk-tuks and the, and the people carrier and cargo carriers. Um, I just think of ourselves as the battery swapping platform. If you need 5 wheels and it makes sense to have 5 wheels, we build a 5-wheel vehicle with a partner. It's really think of us as really the technology platform that enable electric mobility to become easy to use and easy to adopt. Take away range anxiety, take away battery cost, take away charging time. And the only solution you got really is, through a battery swapping infrastructure that lets the consumer go from 0 to 100 in energy in a heartbeat. And that ease of use can be applied to many different form factors when it comes to mobility. 10 kilogram battery in our case, with the vehicle that we work with the IB and deployed in China, a single battery can power over 100 kilometer. In the case of Taiwan, where higher speed, higher load, higher demand on performance, will get double battery to last close to 100 kilometer. So you can imagine, right? 2 battery, 3 battery, 4 battery. It just stacks up until the point it becomes frustrating. If you go 6 batteries, 8 battery, then it becomes a little frustrating to swap. But think about 2 battery, 1 battery, 3 battery, 4 battery, powering different type of form factors. And so we have a lot of vehicle partners coming to us and saying, hey, what about this form factor? What about that form factor? And we see the world, as endless possibility. Battery technology will continue to improve. Cost of battery, has stabilized, but we see that, it will go down over time, as the EV market stabilizes. And the economics of battery swapping will just get more and more efficient. Over the last several years, we've deployed, and updated, our network continuously. We're now on the 3rd generation of our battery and our cabinet. But the unique thing about us is that everything is forward and backward, compatible. So the very first vehicle that we sold can now use the very latest battery that we just manufactured and deployed in the network, as well as vice versa. the very latest vehicle can pick up the oldest battery and use the oldest cabinet to swap as well. So backward forward compatible. So as we build this scale, and then that's what makes efficiency come in. As we get more riders on the network, our OpEx goes down because everything is automated. There's other than people going out and fixing minor problems or maintaining the station, really don't need any. Imagine, I just said we have over 10,000 cabinets. We have them in about slightly over 2,000 locations in Taiwan. But if you think about gas stations, how many people you need at the gas station to operate 2,000 gas stations, that's easily over 10,000 people. In our case, less than 100, because the cabinets are self-served. And that automation allows us to deploy even quicker and offer the consumer higher value, right? So our goal is to get to a point where, battery swapping and gas refueling are at parity. And at that point, you'd be kind of fool not to go with electric, right? Because of the convenience, because of the health reason, because of just the fun of riding electric. It's just funner.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that's all the time we have. I'm really appreciative of you for taking the time to chat. Lovely to get to know you and your business a little bit more. And thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Rebecca. We're just excited about what's to come in this decade, as we think about the sustainability revolution needing to happen. And we're focused on Asia at the moment, because there's just there's 500 million vehicles roaming around in Asia today, providing over 50% of urban commute miles done every day on two-wheelers. There's a huge market that most people don't focus on. And as you think about mobility and you think about electric mobility, you can think about all the the charge point, the Tesla, you can name a full list of folks that are working on four-wheelers. But as you think about two-wheelers, what's unique is that the innovation hasn't really started yet. Gogoro started 10 years ago with a swap and go, and now is beginning to be a hot topic. And I would encourage everybody to pay attention to Asia. And there's a huge market that is emerging with electric two-wheelers, especially around proper electric two-wheelers that are at the 100cc, 125cc equivalent, to solve the problems of Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, India, China, etc. Those growing markets are desperately needing support, and that's what we're working on today.
Yeah, well, I hope I visited Vietnam and Cambodia a few years ago, maybe 6 years ago, and I definitely noticed the congestion, the high levels of two-wheelers with ICE engines, and it'll be really interesting to come back, a few years later and see how much it's changed with your technology.
Absolutely, we're excited about that. Thank you, Rebecca.
Awesome. Thanks, Horace.